Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our, I can't believe it's this number, 8th annual PRI California Ideas in Action Conference. And I'm Tim Anaya. I'm PRI's Vice President of Marketing and Communications, and I'll be your moderator today. And we're so pleased that all of you could join us today for our annual discussion of free market ideas, and as we like to say at PRI, right where they're needed the most, across from the People's House, the state capitol. We have a really exciting lineup of speakers for you today, and we're proud to have the chance to show off some of the work that our PRI team has been working on in recent months. Every year, on one stage, we present diverse voices from across the political spectrum, but who each embody what we know to be true, that free market ideas are the right ideas to California's many challenges, and they're the right reforms to restore our golden state as a place of freedom and prosperity and creativity and opportunity, entrepreneurship and possibility. And as you'll hear from all the speakers today, embracing the free market, I believe, is the way to forge some untraditional alliances and maybe even achieve a little more political balance in our state. So I hope you'll all enjoy the program that we have planned for you today, and that you'll stay actively engaged with PRI throughout the year by subscribing to our newsletters and reading our Right by the Bay blog and listening to our weekly Next Round podcast and attending events like these here in Sacramento and all over the state. Now, there's a flyer at the back of your program where you can learn more about PRI, and you can use the QR code there to sign up for our newsletter. So encourage all of you to check that out. So to kick off our day today, I'd like to introduce PRI's President, CEO, and Thomas W. Smith Fellow in Healthcare Policy, Sally Pipes. Sally?
Thanks.
There you go. Perfect.
So we're going to go down there.
I will sneak behind you here.
Well, thank you, Tim, and what a great group. And I was worried. I flew up this morning on a 7 a.m. flight from Burbank, and it was raining, and they were talking about rain in Sacramento, and I thought to myself, I hope people don't cancel because of the weather. But we've got a great group, so thank you all for coming for our 8th annual, as Tim said, California Ideas in Action Conference. And we're very pleased to have such a great turnout, and to see so many old friends like Cassie. We've known each other for 1,000 years, and her daughter when she was a child, so good. We look forward to hearing from a terrific lineup of noted speakers on the major challenges facing our state, and there are very many. And we'll be featuring PRI's team and some of the important work that we do every day to put the gold back in the Golden State. I wanted to recognize two of our board members, Katie Lynn, who is over there, and Megan Range. Is Megan? Oh, there she is. Oh, good. I haven't said hello yet. So we're delighted that they're both here with us today. I also want to recognize PRI's staffers who work so hard to put this event together every year. And we love being at the Sutter Club, to the Hyatt Hotel and other hotels around town. So we're glad that we are here. I also wanted to thank our event sponsors who are listed in the program and make it possible for us to host this event without a registration fee. So everyone is free riding off the benefits of our donors, so thank you. 2026 is a very important year for California and for PRI for two reasons. First, we're celebrating the country's 250th birthday this year, the semi-quincentennial. It took me a long time to be able to say semi-quincentennial, but the way I learned it was there's a restaurant in San Francisco which is near our old office called Quince. So semi-quincentennial, so that's how I can learn to say that. So, but we have many important events planned for the year to celebrate the country's great milestone. We're going to release 12 videos highlighting unsung heroes in California and the West history. I see Dan Kolke, our board member, is here too. So I didn't know you were coming, so hi Dan. And Brian Van Camp's here if you'd like to come and sit up here. So, sorry. Now you won't be seeing any powdered wigs in our videos, but we have some great people that we're featuring in the videos. They're people who we are honoring who love California and to their great contributions to the growth of this great nation. Names like John Muir, the father of the national parks. His adventures in the Sierra Nevadas led to the preservation of Yosemite National Park and Sequoia National Park. There is Saint Junipero Serra, the apostle of California, who established 8 of the 21 missions and paved the way for modern California as we know it today. And I'm particularly pleased that we are sharing the story of Benjamin Rush, a founding father and the only doctor to sign the Declaration of Independence. And Benjamin Rush, back in the day, he used leeches to get you over your ailments. So anyway, and I was the founder of the Benjamin Rush Institute, which is an institute like the Federalist Society, which is inspiring medical students at schools of medicine around the country to embrace free markets, anti-single payer, empowering doctors and patients. All of the things that you do not learn in medical school are being featured and promoted by the Benjamin Rush Institute. We do not want a single payer system such as exists in Canada and the UK, and I talk about this so often you don't want to hear from me again. But anyway, 2026 is also marking the end, we think, of the Newsom administration and the very progressive policies that have been implemented in this state. I don't know if you know, he's starting his big bus tour around the nation in Nashville to promote his book, and I hope it's a disaster, so that people around the country wake up to the ideas that they will not want for their state or for the country. And we will be electing a new governor this year. We have Steve Hilton and Sheriff, I can never remember his name, but the sheriff. So we'll see how they do. And then Mr. Matt Mahan just entered the race as a Democrat. He was going to be speaking here today, but I guess maybe we're too right-wing for him, so he canceled. So anyway, but he's got some good ideas. Some of these ideas that these very liberal candidates are pushing, again, single payer for the state of California. And just days ago, my nemesis, Ash Kalra, introduced his 100th single payer bill. And this is really depressing. New York State has just reintroduced theirs to the New York Health Act. So the two coasts are embracing single payer health care, and it's quite concerning, but I will fight till I drop dead. Then there's the push by liberals for the new California wealth tax, the billionaires tax. And this is, we think, going to be on the ballot this November. I don't know if you watched the news last night, maybe not up here, but certainly in Southern California, there was Bernie Sanders stooped over the microphone giving great endorsements of the billionaires tax in Los Angeles. He had a lot of events with the heads of the SEIU, and I thought, when people look at him, maybe that will be a negative for people voting for the billionaires tax. My friend Peter Thiel, I'd invited him to speak at our retreat at the Reagan Library on May 7th. And he said, Sally, as you know, we left California on just before the end of December, and I'm not coming back. You can tell people I ran away from the billionaires tax. So, and we know many other important people have left the state. Our Wayne Weingarten, who's not with us here today because he has to do a lot of the healthcare work that I've abandoned today, so that he's estimated that such a wealth tax could eliminate between 200,000 and nearly 500,000 jobs in the state of California. Then there's the pending closure of 2 major oil refineries, which could hike gas prices to a staggering $8 a gallon, according to one USC economist. I filled up my car on Saturday at the Chevron station on the Arroyo Parkway, and it was up to $5.79 a gallon. So this is very harmful to lower income people that need their car to get to work or get their children to various schools and things, and it's very harmful, and the public transportation system does not work well for these people. But we're going to be talking today about these and other challenges with our renowned speakers. As to our speakers, we're very fortunate to have with us the new U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of California, the Honorable Eric Grant, who is here. He's going to be in conversation with our Steve Greenhut. I saw Steve. Oh, there's Steve. So talking about the ongoing legal battles between California and President Trump. and the Trump administration. So that'll be a very interesting discussion. Then we're going to have a panel discussion upon the themes of our Free City Center booklet, exploring the response and recovery efforts from the Southern California wildfires from January 7th a year ago. And Steve is also the head of our Free Cities project, so he's got a number of jobs to do here today. So thanks, Steve, for joining us. One of the biggest challenges made worse by the wildfire is California's insurance crisis. And Steve Greenhut will be moderating a panel of experts discussing what can be done to restore California's insurance market. And our keynote luncheon speaker is California chef Andrew Gruel. Eating and drinking are the most important parts of life to be able to survive in the environment in California. So you may know Andrew from his restaurants in Southern California and his many Food Network appearances and his YouTube cooking videos. You will now see him commenting on politics and policy in his regular appearances on Fox News and CNN. Most recently, he's become a public official with his appointment to the Huntington Beach City Council. So he's going to be sharing his thoughts on the challenges that face California entrepreneurs like himself, and the struggles faced by cities like Huntington Beach complying with state mandates and edicts will be aired in conversation with our own Vice President of Communications, Tim Anaya, who has done such a wonderful job of organizing the conference yet again. So please give Tim a warm Sacramento applause. And following lunch, and to close our event, and some of the state's top political reporters and opinion writers are going to share their inside scoop on what's really going on in the California governor's race. I hope you will all enjoy what should be a very informative and interesting conference. Thank you again for coming. And now let's kick it off with Steve Greenhut, who's going to introduce Judge Grant. So thank you again, and we'll be back with many more exciting things today. So thank you.
Thanks for being here. Whenever I've seen Eric with others, I always warn them to watch their P's and Q's, right? U.S. attorneys are obviously the chief federal law enforcement officers for the district. So this should be a well-behaved group. But we're here to have Eric provide some insight, some behind-the-scenes insight on how the office actually operates. I mean, we're all familiar with U.S. attorneys, but some of us wonder, what the heck do they actually do? So, Eric he was appointed U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District in August. He's a veteran of the Department of Justice. He served in D.C. as the Office of Legal Counsel's Deputy Assistant Attorney General. And he has decades of experience in private practice in Sacramento. He's argued before the U.S. and California Supreme Courts, and he served as a law clerk to Chief Justice Warren E. Burger and Justice Clarence Thomas. So a warm welcome for Eric Grant.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As you've heard, I'm the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of California, and so I'm going to take a few minutes to explain what that means, tell you a little bit about what my office does, and about the Department of Justice's priorities, which are the administration's priorities. So, the United States Attorney, that office was actually established in the Judiciary Act of 1789. Congress authorized and directed United States attorneys, quote, to prosecute in each district all delinquents for crimes and offenses cognizable under the authority of the United States. So if you've ever seen a delinquent in this district, I'm authorized and directed to prosecute him or her. And so where that has evolved in almost 250 years is that there are 93 judicial districts throughout the United States and the territories of the United States, and at least one in every one of the 50 states, and some like California, New York, Texas, Florida have as many as 4. So there are 93 of us altogether throughout the world. So the role of the United States Attorney is specified by statute. I'm going to cite Section 547 of Title 28 of the United States Code, and there are principally 3 of them. prosecute federal criminal cases, prosecute and defend civil cases in which the federal government or one of its officers or agencies is a party, and number 3, collect debts owed to the federal government that are otherwise uncollectible. So if I had a PowerPoint, I would show you this map, which shows all 94 districts. As I said, California has 4. I'll tell you a little bit more about the Eastern District now. So I'm going to pass around this prop that I brought, and we're orange, and I think you're going to find that that's impressive. So California has 4 districts from north to south, north, central, and south, and then several decades ago, out of the northern district was carved our district, the Eastern District of California. And so, as you'll see on the map that goes around, that encompasses 34 of California's 58 counties, and it goes all the way from the Oregon border in the north, Siskiyou County, to Bakersfield in the south, Kern County, and then from the Nevada border in the east, basically to the Coast Range. So it's a vast geographical district, 87,000 square miles, 600 miles long, and I've been to Siskiyou County to meet the sheriff and deputy district attorneys there, and I've been down to Bakersfield to meet the sheriff and the district attorney there, and it's a big district, let me tell you, especially in the fog. It is the 10th largest geographical district in size for the whole nation. Interestingly, 45% of the Eastern District is federal land. So think about all our national forests, our national parks like Yosemite, the Bureau of Land Management of the Department of the Interior has some land, 8 military installations. So that gives this district a different feel from, say, the Central District, which is centered in Los Angeles, very urban. We have a population about the same as the Northern District, between 8 and 9 million people. So very populous and large. In fact, it's the 8th largest district by population and larger than 38 of the 50 states. So about my office, which is located in the federal courthouse a few blocks from here, the Robert T. Matsui Courthouse. We're authorized 100 assistant United States attorneys. Unfortunately, we're down to about 60 right now. It's been a difficult 2025 and 2026 for the entire United States Department of Justice. All of its components have lost numerous attorneys. We are back on the upswing, but we're significantly down from where we started a little more than a year ago. About 75% of those lawyers do criminal cases. So those are your traditional criminal prosecutors who stand up in court and prosecute defendants in the name of the United States and seek to secure criminal convictions. And then about 25% of our lawyers do civil cases. So we, as I'll describe in a little bit, sue individuals and companies civilly, and then we also defend the United States when the government is sued in civil litigation. We have about 60% of our lawyers here in Sacramento in the courthouse, another 40% of our lawyers down in Fresno at the federal courthouse there. And then we have one lawyer in Bakersfield. We're trying to find him some companions. I would show you the website, you could click it, but it's really simple. If you Google USAO, which is United States Attorney's Office, and EDCA, Eastern District of California, you'll get to our website, and it's a law office website, so not particularly interesting. On the other hand, if you look at news releases, you will find what we do. I probably put out a news release at least every other day talking about the prosecutions that we conduct and the civil cases that we conduct. Today, I think later you will read on the website about a settlement between the United States and a timber company that burned down a lot of our forests, both in Oregon and California, and they're paying us a lot of money. They're paying the taxpayers a lot of money in recompense. So, what are our priorities? I think they're well summed up in a memo that the Deputy Attorney General, the number 2 lawyer in the Department of Justice, put out last year called Operation Take Back America. And that specifies the Justice Department's core enforcement priorities. And there are essentially 3 of them. First is the total elimination of cartels, transnational criminal organizations, and foreign terrorist organizations. That's an ambitious goal, but we're doing our best to pursue that in coordination with other departments of the government. Second is ending illegal trafficking of dangerous drugs and human beings. And I include in human trafficking what's often called child pornography, but I think it's more accurately described, and we describe it as child sexual abuse material, because none of this material can be produced without the abuse of a child. And I am sad to say that abuse encompasses children very, very young. And it is really one of the more depressing and tragic aspects of my job to see these cases and to prosecute these cases on behalf of these little victims. So that is certainly a priority for our office. And third, securing our borders by stopping illegal immigration. And in that regard, we work with our partners in the Department of Homeland Security. So these criminal cases include major drug trafficking, violent crime, child exploitation, public corruption. One of the recent series of indictments announced by my office involved a scheme by prominent capital lobbyists basically to rip off one of their employers' campaign funds. So funds contributed by members of the public who expected that they would go toward a political campaign, but instead very cynically went to the pockets of an individual who just felt like he wasn't paid enough, and so thought he could steal that money. And we've procured a couple of guilty pleas in those cases that are public record, and we'll continue to prosecute that. And I should emphasize that investigation was started several years ago under my predecessor, under the administration of a different party. So it's not partisan. It is a very important principle of all federal prosecutors, and certainly of mine and my office, to prosecute and investigate without fear or favor. And that means without regard to partisan affiliation, without regard to whether the target is rich and powerful, or a friend or a foe of any particular person. So whatever you read about the rest of the country, in the Eastern District of California, that is an important principle to which we adhere and to which we shall adhere as long as I hold this office. We do civil rights cases. We investigate hate crimes and human trafficking related crimes. Tax evasion was one of the charges we made in one of these recent cases. ID theft and cyber crimes. So I'll just give you a couple of examples. We recently obtained a life sentence against a police officer in the city of Torrance in Fresno County who had abused his office to sexually assault half a dozen women, and we prosecuted him and obtained a life sentence. We recently prosecuted an individual in Stockton, happened to work for California Environmental Protection Agency during the day, but at night spent his time trying to provide material support of ISIS. And so he will be a guest of the Federal Bureau of Prisons for quite a long time. We prosecute MS-13, Aryan Brotherhood, Hells Angels, and other gangs who often commit crimes from state prison. We put the self-proclaimed M30 King of Fresno, and I believe M30 is a slang for fentanyl. He's sentenced to 30 years in federal prison appropriately. So those are some of examples of our recent criminal cases. Civil cases, if you get run over by a postal truck, we'll be defending the Postal Service. We have a lot of these cases, unfortunately, and we try to settle them because there's often not a lot to say about who's at fault. We defend employment discrimination cases brought against federal agencies. In our affirmative civil cases, we sue companies like Pacific Corp, you'll read in this press release today, who through negligence or recklessness allow our national forests to catch on fire and cause us to have to spend tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars to put out these fires. So those are some examples of the type of cases that we do. You'll read in this press release that this company is paying the United States $600 million, at least a third of which involves fires in California. So I think with that, I'll move on to this part of the program.
Eric, thank you for giving us some insight into the office. I want to talk about a few things. First is obviously U.S. attorneys serve in a somewhat political role. And do you think this role has been politicized more than it has been under previous administrations of both parties?
Well, the issue this cycle, normally United States attorneys are, like most political appointees, nominated by the president. The nomination goes to the Senate. Am I still mic'd? No.
Yeah, that's for recording, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you get an up or down vote, and most nominees are confirmed, some are not. That's politics, that's fine. In this administration, as a result of what's called the blue slip process, and I won't bore you with that, essentially the Democrats have said, we're not even going to allow the president's nominees for United States Attorney to come to a vote. And so in so-called blue states like California, that means there would be no United States attorneys. Fortunately, the statute allows the Attorney General to make temporary appointments of 120 days, and that's how I started. And then the statute allows the local district judges to make an appointment, and the judges of this district graciously appointed me on a more or less permanent basis. So yes, it's a political process. I think it's descended into the bad end of the political process in this administration, and that's unfortunate.
Now, how do you deal with state agencies, other than if you find a state official who is running guns for ISIS or something like that, but what's your usual relation with state agencies, and what's it been like being in a Trump Justice Department and dealing with the Newsom administration?
As I mentioned, this district covers 34 of California's 58 counties. So we have in this district 34 elected district attorneys. We have 34 elected county sheriffs. We have a dozen or so metropolitan police departments like Sacramento, Fresno, Bakersfield, Vallejo. I have found working with those individuals to be extremely rewarding. We consider them our partners, and our respective offices have great partnerships with all of them. And the one issue on which some of us have some disagreement, I would say, is immigration, and we respectfully agree to disagree. I have told my state and local partners, and I had the chance to meet with the Attorney General last week in a very cordial meeting, that that's a priority, as I explained to all of you. On the other hand, I don't want that aspect of our work to interfere with our partnerships about drugs and other violent crime. And so I think in the end we have a respectful agreement to disagree.
Okay, on crime, I mean, obviously you're prosecuting crimes, but street crime is not typically something that's typically the local district attorney. What can a U.S. attorney do in terms of, these general crime issues that are of a lot of concern to people these days?
You're right. Most crime is a state and local matter, and we very much respect the jurisdiction of our state and local partners. What we can offer, and what we do offer, is assistance in going after those organizations that have an interstate or international nexus. That's where our fellow Department of Justice components like the Drug Enforcement Administration or the FBI or the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms can assist. And that's the larger organizations, those with interstate and international connections. We can help with those, and we do help with those.
Okay, great. Now, your colleague, Bill Asaley, he stepped into controversy not long ago, made some gun-related comments related to the shooting by an ICE officer in Minneapolis. Now, I'm obviously not trying to get you to say anything about your colleague or his specific comments, but I'm wondering about your thought process when you're wading into hot-button issues, especially those outside the district. What's your general approach, your general policy, if you have one?
I don't wade into hot button issues outside my district.
Okay, that's.
I have 92 colleagues, and I respect their jurisdiction, and I hope that they each will respect mine. I've also found as a prosecutor that it behooves us to wait for the facts to come in, and therefore, consistent with longstanding department policy, we are very loath to comment on breaking issues. You will see in the press releases that my office issues that we stick to what we call the charging documents, either indictments or complaints, matters of public record, because we make sure those are rock solid, supported by the evidence, and we want to make sure that any of our public comments are consistent with those well-supported documents.
Now, I read news reports that Donald Trump had gathered all the U.S. attorneys into Washington and had some really negative things to say to all of you folks. And I'm wondering what happened, what was going on? What happened in that meeting, and what was his beef?
Well, probably all of you have heard of the attorney-client privilege.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to discuss the contents of the meeting. We did meet in the White House. The president was gracious enough to invite us for a portrait. All 93 of us sort of crammed together on some risers with the president and the attorney general. What's the phrase from diplomacy? A frank and earnest exchange of views, or something like that. But That does, I think, for me, bring up an interesting issue, Steve. I don't consider the president to be my client in a personal sense. My client is the people of the United States. And we have client agencies and we have client officers. And obviously the president is the head of the executive branch, and we are part of his administration, and we pursue his administration's priorities and policies. But no one person, not even any one agency is our client. Our client is the people of the United States.
Now, Eric, California passed a law limiting the ability of law enforcement officers to, including federal ones, to wear masks. And I'm not trying to get into the details of that policy. We might disagree. But, that's been struck down by a court as it applies to federal officers. And I'm just trying to maybe get your thoughts on maybe that issue or any other issue where our state kind of steps into federal, seemed like obvious federal authority in that. Have you dealt with that issue? Do you have any thoughts on it?
That's the subject of pending litigation, and the department as a whole, based in what we call Main Justice in Washington, D.C., is spearheading that litigation. And so I'll let the department's court filings speak for themselves. And essentially, the argument of the Department of Justice is that those two mandates, there's a anti-mask mandate, and then a ID mandate that federal officers identify themselves publicly, that those violate the supremacy clause of the United States Constitution. And I would say that there are good faith arguments on both sides, but I do expect that the Department of Justice will prevail in that litigation when it gets to the Court of Appeals, or perhaps ultimately the Supreme Court. One thing to note is that this is not a new issue. There have been federal-state conflict since before the Civil War, and it's, despite the overheated rhetoric, there are some well-established legal principles in this area that I think will be applied by the courts, and I hope that everybody will accept the rulings with grace and follow the court orders. Certainly that's been the policy of this administration. I think there's been a lot of overheated rhetoric, but in my estimation, and certainly in this district where we have been ordered by courts to do lots of things, lots of times, we follow court orders, and we intend to keep doing so.
Okay. Now, you were a clerk for Clarence Thomas. How has his thinking influenced yours?
Justice Thomas's fellow clerks and I call him a great American, and he is a great American, and it was an honor and a pleasure to serve as his law clerk. I think it's been 30 years ago now, and I've always appreciated, most of all, Justice Thomas's fidelity to the text of the Constitution, the text of the governing law, regardless of his policy preferences. And that has been the most important example to me that although lawyers need to be advocates for their clients, ultimately, especially a lawyer serving the people of the United States, needs to be faithful to the Constitution and laws of the United States. And he gave that example and continues to give that example, and I hope that I live up to it.
One last question, and we'll open it up to the floor. You spent a lot of your career in private practice. Now you're a government official. Well, I mean, just on a day-to-day, how shocking is it? Just give us a little insight into what it's like operating in the government bureaucracy as someone who's used to private practice.
I think literally this morning we're getting a software update so that we can actually use Teams intelligently and competently. Some of the things are mind-blowing, and we labor under some challenges. I would say, though, that while the technology and the bureaucracy and perhaps the compensation are less than ideal in the federal government, the people, my colleagues, the Assistant United States Attorneys who work in the office and the staff who support them are top-notch. I could not ask for better colleagues, both in terms of technical competence, zeal, and perseverance. So there are challenges, but the people with whom I work are up to the challenge.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, Eric.